Capitol Hill is cleaning house, literally. Congressman Eric Swalwell faces shocking sexual abuse allegations from multiple women, which he denies. Swalwell has now officially submitted his resignation to the House clerk. What is Swalwell accused of? Today, one of his accusers, Lana Drews, went public. We want to warn you, what she said is disturbing.
He raped me, and he choked me. And while he was choking me, I lost consciousness. And I thought I died.
We will have much more on what Drews and her lawyer said about Swalwell in just a moment. Swalwell, a Democrat, is not the only one facing disturbing allegations and therefore calling it quits. Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez is also retiring. Gonzalez admitted to an affair with a former staffer. In a tragic turn, she ended up taking her own life by setting herself on fire. Gonzalez and Swalwell will be leaving office before their colleagues on the Hill can vote them out. Their colleagues had vowed to expel them. In 237 years, the House has expelled only 6 members. But this year, could that change to 7 or maybe 8? Who could be next? Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick. The Florida Democrat is accused of stealing millions in FEMA funds. She is already facing an ethics probe in the House, but some of her colleagues are now demanding she resign or be expelled formally. Later this hour, you will hear how the Congresswoman is responding. And as we mentioned earlier today, one of Eric Swalwell's accusers spoke to reporters in Los Angeles. We want to again warn you, what you're about to hear is graphic and disturbing. Here's what the accuser, Lana Drews, and her attorney, Lisa Bloom, said.
I did not consent to any sexual activity. Although I did not undergo a rape kit at the time, I disclosed the assault to the people closest to me. I also recorded these events in my handwritten calendar. The assault and its impact were later documented during my therapy sessions at a sexual assault center in Connecticut. It had a profound impact on my mental health. I self-medicated in an unhealthy way. I did not want to live anymore.
Immediately, we will be filing a police report with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, which is the law enforcement agency that has jurisdiction over incidents that happen in West Hollywood. Lana is committed to fully cooperating with law enforcement, and we will do everything possible to assist and support her in that.
Drews and her attorneys say the alleged assault happened in 2018. Drews' lawyers also say they have evidence of the incident. The evidence includes text messages, journal entries, photos, and witness testimony. Criminal defense attorney and managing partner of Geragos and Geragos in Los Angeles, my old friend, Mark Geragos, joins me. Nice to see you, Mark.
Good to see you, Greta.
Big difference between really bad behavior and a crime. In this case, how would you investigate this?
Well, if you're on the defense, the first thing you're going to do is take a look at the items that she just listed, that the accuser just listed. She's got Lisa as her lawyer. Lisa knows the kinds of things that will be admissible. So there was no rape kit, so they preemptively talked about that. They talked about talking to her close friends in real time. The reason for that is there's a doctrine in California called the fresh complaint, and that would allow what would normally be hearsay to come in because it was a fresh complaint. If they have therapy sessions, and that appears to be what they're saying now, all of that is stuff that is going to be fair game. Before we taped or we saw this press conference, we knew the Manhattan DA had opened up a investigation. I will bet you any amount of donuts that you want to bet that Nathan Hochman's office will open a sexual assault or rape investigation very quickly, because if they file a police report with this kind of hot button evidence, This is something that police are going to investigate immediately, and they're going to go down the various items that she just listed that I recounted to see if those are in fact in existence. If they are, and I were Eric Swalwell, I would lawyer up.
You know, I purposely noted there's a difference between bullish behavior and criminal behavior because he hasn't had a trial, and these allegations are so salacious, and the woman is obviously so traumatized that it's very easy to assume right from the get-go that it happened, without any trial. And the lawyer in me says that, you got to wait to hear, what he has to say. She's got to be tested. Her evidence has got to be tested. Sort of like actually with the Kavanaugh hearing is that if you only heard one side, people had one vision of Kavanaugh. But when you heard Kavanaugh speak and you heard the argument, it was very different for a lot of people. But nonetheless, is that there's just something just so, even if it was consensual, what in the world was he thinking running for governor of California or even running for re-election?
Well, look, I was perplexed, shall we say, about the lawyer who went on to Michael sit on CNN's show to defend him. And the reason I was perplexed is that you normally don't want to send the lawyer out in a situation like this prior to doing the investigation. I read this morning that lawyer, in fact, was not really his lawyer, but was Klobuchar's lawyer. And there's some back and forth, so I won't take any shots there because he was in the eye of the storm. But as you know, Greta, we've you and I have been friends for decades, and a lot of times there is a certain amount of hubris and arrogance that surrounds these things, and people, the reaction is to fight, to never apologize. I mean, that served the president very well. And in this case, that was not the tack that was taken. And I think there's an uphill battle here because I don't know, I can't remember anybody having this kind of an implosion this quick on both coasts. I mean, not even Harvey Weinstein went down this quickly.
But the thing is that he must have suspected something would come on. I mean, it's like, even from self-preservation, if he'd had this horrible conduct, whether it's a consensual or whether it's rape, is that you would think self-preservation, you want to keep it hidden. Why would you put yourself out as a target and run for governor of California? I mean, that's what I don't get. I mean, it's like, besides being just horrendous and the allegations being horrendous, is how profoundly ignorant.
Well, there's a couple of things going on here. Number one, when the lawyer came out, whether it was his lawyer, at least it was somebody who was claiming to be his lawyer, and said that the timing in terms of the election, it looked like an October surprise. In California, we've had multiple October surprises. I have a client actually who was victimized falsely, by the way, by an October surprise several years ago. Sometimes people think they can wait it out. And I will remind you, and I don't know if you covered it, but I guess you did. In Timothy Busfield's case, everybody was coming out and there was all kinds of rush to judgment. And in that case, once the tapes and the bail hearing was conducted, we found out that it wasn't as it appeared. In this case, though, we're not getting that filtered kind of a story. We're getting, here you go, you've got the Lisa takes after her mom, Gloria Allred, and does that law firm conference room press conference. And the accuser is very poised and appears by all accounts to be authentic. If you're Swalwell's lawyer, you're going to want to know the where, the when, the how, and you're going to be investigating that to your first question, which I kind of avoided simultaneously. But the explanation for why somebody would jump into this thing is just human nature. That's all. You've seen it. I've seen it. It happens repeatedly.
Well, as you know, I believe you're a great lawyer, and if you have really bad luck, you'll get a call from Swalwell tonight. Anyway, looking for a lawyer. Anyway, Mark Geragos, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Greta. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. Now to the Iran war. Today, the U.S. military says its blockade on Iranian ports is a success. U.S. Central Command says more than 10,000 sailors, Marines, and airmen, along with more than a dozen warships and dozens of aircraft, are executing the blockade mission. In a post on X, CENTCOM says, quote, during the first 24 hours, no ships made it past the U.S. blockade, and 6 merchant vessels complied with direction from U.S. forces to turn around to re-enter an Iranian port on the Gulf of Oman, end quote. Retired Navy SEAL and former Deputy Commander of Central Command, Vice Admiral Robert Harwood joins me. Nice to see you again, sir. And how does it work? You're taking your ship up, and all of a sudden you run into the blockade. What's the message? You get a message from the U.S. ship?
You sure do. Bridge-to-bridge radio. All ships are required to have them and use them, and so they talk to these ships. And let me tell you, Greta, topography, or in this case, geography and traffic matters. They know where the boats are coming through and going to, so we have ships at both ends of the Strait of Hormuz. We communicate with the ships and we can see them and find traffic. Not a lot of ships are moving through the straits because of the mines and missile threats. So that makes this a pretty standard operation for the Navy. They see a ship coming out or going either way if they want it, as they have 2 destroyers inside the Gulf and the rest of the fleet outside the Gulf. So both ends, they can see the ships, they can talk to them, and if they don't cooperate, they can put guys on those ships. So it's pretty standard operating procedures for our Navy.
Well, it sort of reminds me, I don't know if you heard the first segment on Congressman, now resigned Congressman Swalwell. I think, why in the world is he running for governor? And I think to myself now, why in the world would you even bring your boat close to this blockade knowing it's happening? Because now you've wasted your fuel getting there. It's like, you know, it's no secret. The whole world knows we had this blockade.
Well, you always got to test things. You know, you can have theory, and that's the same issue with the mining threat right now. Listen, I'm a ship. I hear there's a blockade. I got a fleet of 30, 40 ships. Let's run a few to see if the blockades go to work. In this case, they found out it did. We have the same issues with the mines. We know the threat. We're not sure what their capabilities are. But if ships are going through the straits, it's obviously not mined. So the threat versus the reality play out in both of these scenarios.
Okay, let's say that we board a ship, that a ship is ignoring our blockade. What happens then?
Well, then the ball's in our court. We determine, is this oil that we want to see go through? Is this oil going to Japan? Is it going, it's clear and free? We can decide to let it go. But if it's linked to Iran, it's linked to the conflict, then we can hold it in place. Or we can even take custody. We can move it to a port and have it sit in the port till we want to make that decision. But the ball's in our court. So it's a brilliant strategy to increase pressure on the regime without inflicting damage. So I think a very good move by the administration.
How easy is it to put mines in the area? I mean, without getting caught, I suppose, is one part. And secondly, how easy is it to detect the mines and to remove them, or to, I guess, just explode them if you have to?
Well, let's get back to the root cause, as you said first one. How easy is it to put in the water? Listen, this was a target of the initial bombing and have been targets the entire bombing campaign, to not only take out all the mines ashore, the facilities and where they are, but more importantly, all the vessels who could put them in the water. And of course, any vessel could put them in the water, be it a dhow, be it a military aircraft. So we're able, in watching all the traffic in the region. And as we saw in the Iran-Iraq, well, let's go back to the invasion of Iraq in 2003. We went on every dhow and boat, and we found boats, dhows with mines on them. So we blew them in place. But in this case, you have the ability, if you need to detect, board, and verify if any of these craft are carrying mines. And again, to date, I have not seen any report of an actual mine in the water or a vessel carrying mines. So again, to this point, it's still a threat, not a validated capability.
We have 10 seconds left. How big is a mine?
It can be this big to very big. So there's a wide range of arsenals in the inventory supplied by some of Iran's allies. So we have to contend with all sides and scope. And we know the inventory of known mines, and we don't think they've developed any new ones. So we know the pretty good scale of the numbers types that they had at the start of the war.
Vice Admiral Robert Harward, thank you again, as always. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Greta.
Nice to see you. Coming up, they're back in town after 2 weeks away. I'm talking about Congress. So what's first up on their agenda? Find out when the record continues.
People can't stop talking about Rob Schmidt.
I trust the news from Rob Schmidt every single day.
They say he's no BS.
No BS. No liberal crap.
He hates liars.
The honesty and up-to-date news and none of the fake news.
He tells it better than anyone.
Everything is straight, legit, real news.
He's your voice.
Rob Schmidt, 7 p.m. Wouldn't miss it.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
I love Newsmax.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America, by Americans, with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money, your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Before Apoquel Chewable for allergic itch, giving dogs pills was a battle of wits.
Oh, Maria, I'm wise to your foolish game.
Is it gone?
Totally gone.
Relief for itchy dogs can be easier. Apoquel, the trusted #1 treatment for allergic itch, is available in a tasty chewable that works fast.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Ask your vet for Apoquel Chewable.
Do it!
Congress is back in session after a 2-week recess, so what is on the agenda? Well, today GOP leaders held a meeting to try to figure out the next steps for funding the Department of Homeland Security. As of today, DHS has been shut down for 59 days. Plus, Republicans are facing President Trump's June 1st deadline to pass a party line reconciliation bill that would fund DHS. Also on today's agenda, Senate Majority Leader John Thune and House Speaker Mike Johnson held their weekly meeting. And let's not forget about the war in Iran. Yesterday, Senate Majority Leader Thune was asked by reporters about the war. Thune responded saying the United States has been, quote, effective in the war with Iran, but needs a plan to end it, end quote. Florida Republican and member of the Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees, Senator Rick Scott joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And someplace I've read it said we've been shut down 60 days. Journalists aren't known for the math. We say 59 here at Newsmax, but 59 or 60. How are we going to end this? When's it going to end?
Well, number one, this makes no sense. In my home state, we just lost a woman from an illegal alien who just took a hammer, broke into her car at a gas station, and murdered her. We lost a little boy, 15-year-old boy, last week in Missouri, illegal alien. Just outside D.C., Fairfax County, 75% of the murder suspects are illegal. I mean, this is what Democrats are doing. They're telling people who they are. They don't give a damn about your safety. So we have got to do everything we can to get this funded. We should never have funded the rest of government without funding Homeland Security, but this is where we are. Our only path, we have two paths. Get rid of the filibuster and pass this with a majority vote. That's one approach, which I support. Number two is do a reconciliation, which you just do with 50 votes, plus J.D. Vance would break the tie, and fund just Border Patrol and ICE, and then hopefully we can get the rest funded through another bill. But I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, every American wants to be safe.
Why do you pick do away the filibuster over a reconciliation? What are the pros and the cons for either one of them? They have the same effect, don't they, or not?
Well, it's fast. Yeah, they say it has the same effect, although there's limitations with the reconciliation. It has to be mandatory spending. So let's think about the filibuster for a second. The filibuster was simply just supposed to be to say, we've had our time for a debate, we're going to vote. it was always a majority vote in the Senate. It was never supposed to be that you have to have 60 votes to pass something. It was just 60 votes to stop debate. But what Chuck Schumer's done is use 60 votes. He did it to block nominations. We had to change that last year. Now he's doing it to stop legislation. If we're going to get the Save America Act done, if we're going to get the Department of Homeland Security funded, if we're going to get the Trump agenda done, actually, I don't see how we're going to do any of it without getting rid of the filibuster. I mean, you'd like to say, sure, we'd like to work with our Democrat colleagues. They don't want to work with us. They're being honest. They want open borders. They don't want these people that kill our kids and our wives and rape our daughters. They don't want them deported. They want them here. I don't get it. This is despicable.
Well, the filibuster was always seen as something very holy until 2013, when then Democratic Majority Leader Reid from Nevada got rid of it for some. Harry Reid. So the Democrats sort of started it. So it seems to me that John Thune, the Majority Leader now, would certainly be within its rights, I guess, payback, because we do payback in this city. So why won't he do away with the filibuster?
Well, we got to get 50 votes. To get it, we have to get a majority of the Senate to want to do it. But what I say is, look, I came up here actually to accomplish something. And if you look at what we're not getting, what the public wants done, take the Save America Act as an example. This is like 80% of Americans want the Save America Act, and we can't get that passed, right? Homeland Security is not funded for 2 months, and it's not going to be funded for another probably a month and a half. Before we get the reconciliation bill done. I mean, we have got to say, look, I want to work with my Democrat colleagues, but they don't want to work with us, so we're going to have to change the rules here.
Senator Rick Scott from the great state of Florida, thank you, sir. And tonight, the House is set to vote on an aviation safety bill. It is named the Alert Act. The bill is aimed at addressing the problems that led to last year's mid-air collision in Washington, D.C. between a commercial airline jet and U.S. military helicopter. 67 people died in that crash. National Transportation Safety Board says the Alert Act addresses its recommendation to require all aircraft flying around busy airports to have key locator systems. These systems let pilots know more precisely where other aircrafts are flying around them. Last month, 2 House committees unanimously advanced the bill. So tonight, the bill faces a full House floor vote. If the bill passes, it will then head to the Senate. To add some common sense to a city that has so very little, meaning Washington, one way to obviously prevent a military helicopter from colliding with a commercial aircraft at Reagan Airport is to prohibit military helicopters from flying up and down the Potomac River in this takeoff and landing airspace between the Pentagon and Andrews Joint Air Force Base. For some reason, they just won't do that. They won't stop that. Military personnel, though, could take cars like everyone else. Doesn't have to be a helicopter. It's only 13 miles. And if it's a training exercise, take the helicopters out to the desert or over the ocean. Stop putting Americans' lives at risk at that airport. But that's common sense. Coming up, a startling find inside a garbage truck. That when the record continues.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
I'm seeing more and more people in their 40s and even in their 30s starting to prioritize their cholesterol health. They're doing what they can with diet and exercise, but want something more. Human Cholesterol Health Daily is that something more. A multi-action formula with plant-based ingredients backed by 3 clinical studies. that demonstrate real, measurable support for cholesterol and vascular health. Founded in partnership with the University of Texas, this is modern-day cholesterol support I wish more people knew about. Only human.
Michael Youssef here. You know, evil forces are working day and night to destroy our children's soul, their faith in God, and their moral absolutes. As parents, we have the responsibility to teach our children the truth. And we can only do that when we know the only one who said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Will you come to him?
Visit findingtruepeace.com.
Simparica Trio protects against 3 categories of parasites.
Power of disease.
This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at everyone's door because I'm inevitable.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance. Actually, home insurance is for the unexpected disasters. A home warranty is for the everyday wear and tear that will cause your home systems and appliances to fail. So give the people at First American a call.
First American has had my back for years and saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered. Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call First American for a free quote that could save you thousands on inevitable home breakdowns. Call 800-714-4212 or visit FAHW.com.
It's a shocking report. Deadly anti-Semitic attacks worldwide are at a 30-year high. The Tel Aviv University study says last year, quote, witnessed 20 casualties killed in 4 anti-Semitic attacks in 3 countries. That's the highest number of casualties in 1 year for over 3 decades, end quote. The report was released yesterday before today's Israel-Holocaust Remembrance Day. Earlier today, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson spoke at the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum here in D.C. While reflecting on the past, Speaker Johnson spoke about the importance of remembering the Holocaust.
Denying and distorting the truth of the Holocaust has become something, once again, that is tolerated and in some cases even defended. On college campuses, leaders of once respectable institutions have excused hateful ideas as context. The flags of radical Islamic terrorist groups have become commonplace on campus quadrangles. And safe spaces are reserved not for the Jewish students threatened by physical violence on these campuses, but for those who chant from the river to the sea and long live Hamas.
In Israel today, people stopped what they were doing. It's an annual tradition to remember the 6 million Jews killed in the Holocaust. Israelis driving in their cars stopped and got out for the national moment of silence. Others who were food shopping did the same. The entire country stopped to honor this day. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Isaac Herzog laid wreaths at the Holocaust Museum in Israel. You may be wondering, what's the difference today between the International Holocaust Remembrance Day, which falls on January 27th, in the Hebrew calendar, today marks the anniversary of the 1943 Warsaw Ghetto Uprising and honors the 6 million Jews killed. International Holocaust remembers the day that the liberation of Auschwitz occurred. And today at Auschwitz was the annual March of the Living. Holocaust survivors joined thousands to march where millions were killed 80 years ago. The march is in its 38th year. Auschwitz is haunting for its cruelty it inflicted on the innocents. Let me show you a crematorium where they killed Jews in groups of 700 to 800 at a time. This is where 700 Jews would be brought in. They'd be lodged in here, about 700. They would then, the SS would drop cyanide down in holes like this in the ceiling. There are a bunch of them littered throughout this space. And then after they were all killed, other prisoners would have to go in and collect their bodies and bring their bodies into this second area And this second area that's adjacent has the ovens, has the crematorium, and they would burn them. The women would have their heads shaved after they were killed because the Germans used their hair for such things as insulation on airplanes. But there are a couple of crematoriums, a couple of ovens in this area. At the time of the Holocaust, Jews did not have a country and an army to protect them. Now they do. That is the state of Israel. The country, since its formation in 1948, has been on high alert from its surrounding enemies. By the way, 11 minutes after the declaration of Israel as a nation in 1948, the United States President Harry S. Truman recognized Israel as a nation. And by the way, this week, Israeli police pulled over a garbage truck. When they opened it up, they discovered more than 60 Palestinians inside. Police say they were trying to enter Israel illegally. The suspects were taken into custody by police. The driver was detained. Middle East correspondent Zach Anders joins me from Tel Aviv, where it is 11:31 p.m. Zach?
Well, Greta, critical moments ahead in Israel's war against Hezbollah and Lebanon. Israel and Lebanon holding their first diplomatic talks direct face-to-face in Washington today, the first time in decades. This with Secretary of State Marco Rubio hosting both the Israeli ambassador and the Lebanese ambassador. So high-level talks here, as Marco Rubio calls it a historic opportunity, but who is not at the table, Hezbollah. Now, the State Department described the talks as productive, that both sides agreed to hold direct negotiations at a mutually agreed time and venue. They say both sides do share the goal of the Lebanese state asserting control over its territory from Hezbollah, especially in the south. Here is Israel's ambassador to the United States.
We discovered today that we're on the same side of the equation, and that's the most positive thing we could have come away with. We are both united in liberating Lebanon from an occupation power dominated by Iran called Hezbollah.
Meanwhile, Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem, in a televised address last night, blasted the decision, urged Lebanese leadership to pull out of the talks, calling them pointless and a free concession to Israel and the United States, and a ploy to force the group to disarm. Qassem vowed that Hezbollah would stay on the battlefield until our last breath. And that battlefield has been moving deeper and deeper inside southern Lebanon. The IDF ground war has expanded. Israeli troops have encircled a key Hezbollah stronghold, a town in southern Lebanon that was the site of major ground combat in 2006. The Israelis were not able to capture and hold that town. I'm told that now the IDF expects full operational control in this town within days. Greta?
Zach Anders, thank you. And you don't see this every day. On Sunday, a Hungarian politician could not control himself. After Peter Magyar won the election for prime minister, defeating Viktor Orban, this Hungarian politician, Schlapp Geragos, was so excited he took over the stage. Why was he so happy? Well, not only did his party win, but he's a leading candidate for health minister in the future government. And he dances well. Coming up, a shakeup in Congress, and not for good reasons. Allegations of misconduct. That when the record continues.
I switched.
I switched. I switched.
I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Have you made the switch?
You bet I did. My whole family switched.
Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Life with ear ringing sounded like a constant train whistle I couldn't escape. Then I started taking lipoflavonoid. With 60 years of clinical experience, it's the #1 doctor-recommended brand for ear ringing. And now I'm finally free. Take back control with lipoflavonoid.
Aging isn't something that happens later. It's happening right now. We age because our cells age.
Fatty 15 helps to reverse aging on a cellular level.
And just one daily capsule has over 36 cellular benefits.
Basically acts like an armor for your cells. You should definitely try Fatty 15.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
If your dog struggles with stiff joints, low energy, messy poops, or an itchy coat, the cause might be sitting in your dog's food bowl right now. Kibble. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete, gently air-dried, packed with real canine superfoods to help your dog unlock puppy-like energy, smoother digestion, healthier joints, shinier coats, and more. Thousands have already made the switch. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
No way this all fits.
Watch me.
Oh, we're watching, Gary. They're right. We need WeatherTech.
I thought they only make floor liners and cargo liners.
Really, Gary? Really, Gary? Who do you think made the seat protector, side window deflectors, no-drill mud flaps?
And the cup foam.
And I just ordered WeatherTech's newest products. Ta-da!
Hitch Basket makes for easy loading of heavy and bulky gear and increased storage capacity with a roof basket up top. Buy American at WT.com.
WeatherTech for the win.
I wish I loved my smile.
I wish I could get implants.
I wish money wasn't so tight.
I wish I can justify the cost.
I wish my insurance could save me more on dental implants.
See what it can do at ClearChoice. Show us your insurance card and save $5,000 on fixed full double arch implants. That's insurance assurance on a smile that's built for life. Schedule your free consultation today.
Today, an accuser of embattled Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell spoke to reporters in Beverly Hills about her alleged 2018 sexual abuse. Swalwell, as you know, was running for governor of California but dropped out of the race on Sunday amid sexual misconduct allegations. Swalwell denies the allegations. He has, though, however, resigned officially from Congress effective immediately. But he's not the only member of Congress resigning from Congress. Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez has admitted to an affair with a staffer who later died by suicide. And now, too, he is resigning from Congress. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna has been very vocal of Congress ousting both Swalwell and Gonzalez for bad behavior. And now, Congresswoman Luna is seeking a third resignation from Congress. She's calling on Florida Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Sherfulis McCormick to resign. Here's what Congresswoman Luna said about Sherfulis McCormick, quote, Sheila McCormick, we have your expulsion vote ready to be called up on the 21st. Either resign or be expelled. Those are your two options. So America is tracking stole $5 million in FEMA funds, end quote. We received a statement from Congresswoman Sherfulis McCormick. She says, I want to be very clear. Those calling for my resignation or expulsion do not know or care about my district or the fight we are in right now. Second, the allegations I'm addressing are not the same as those facing some of my colleagues. Lumping them together, particularly with cases involving sexual assault and rape, is inaccurate and irresponsible. Third, we must uphold due process. No one should be judged or punished before a formal finding. Expelling members without that standard sets a dangerous precedent. And finally, for those asking whether I plan to resign, the answer is no. This is not the time to abandon the district, especially when they too are fighting for their future. CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp and former D.C. Council member and former DNC Finance Vice Chair Michael Brown joins me. Nice to see both of you. Michael, I haven't seen you in a long time, so I ask you first, who's the leader of your party these days?
Well, first, it seems like old times.
It does seem like old times,
indeed it does. With my friend Matt, so it's glad to be here. The leader seems to be really the people. People are now deciding. They're not waiting for leaders to tell them kind of what to do, what the messaging is. There's certainly a main message from the Democratic Party. It's not like when my father was chair, where he would lay out exactly where the party is going and what it's doing. Now the people are deciding and helping the leaders follow, and that's kind of what's happening.
But somebody's got to take the mantle and run.
Exactly, and you'll see that. Frankly, when the House flips in November, presumably the House will flip, Hakeem Jeffries will be one of the leaders. Clearly the party and party headquarters will be the leaders. Clearly the chairman of the party. Nancy Pelosi will always be part of the leadership. But it's the messaging that matters, and people really matter too on making sure that people get out to vote and carry the message that they're frustrated with.
Matt, from a purely numbers point of view, Speaker Johnson got lucky that Swalwell was resigned because now they can get Gonzalez out of there and not lose the math.
Yeah, it's like a one-seat majority, essentially, so they're very worried about that. The real question on all these things is, in the House, you have an election every 2 years. The whole House is up, right? So is it the right thing for Congress to expel members or for the voters to expel members? Now, these two members are resigning, so that kind of like pushes that question away with that last woman with the difficult last name, who I really don't know very much about.
McCormick. I got it now. I said it twice right.
I assume she's pretty new, but a serious allegation. She's right. You should have due process before you're kicked out of Congress. But we got into this whole question before. You're trying to hotbox the other team, especially if they have a slender majority, into kicking out one of their members who was just reelected. And I'm good with letting the voters decide most of these questions.
You know, I am too. I didn't like it when Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned because she left her constituents for at least a short period of time without any voice in Congress.
It was surprising. I thought she would wait and just say, I'm not going to run for re-election, if she even chose to leave at all. But I hope we make sure that the same thing happens. I know with Congresswoman McCormick, she's going to fight, but the same thing is going to come up with Congressman Mills. He's got some issues, and we'll see if everyone gets treated equally as they go through this process.
But Congress hasn't expelled people very often.
No.
Like six times.
Well, they impeached a judge who then turned around and got reelected to Congress.
Out of Southern Florida.
Which, I think the voters have the right to pick who they want. And this is the way democracy is. It's ugly.
Is Trump on the ballot in November?
I would have told you that is our best case scenario. I still believe that's true, that we have to run behind Trump. And if we get Trump voters to turn out, we win, and we'll hold on to these majorities. The Iran complicates that just a wee bit, but I'm hoping that Iran is not a lengthy process, that it's, they do their business and essentially get out. If Iran lingers and gas prices linger, the midterms get more complicated. But that's why we do this. What I love about President Trump is he's doing the hard things even when it's politically risky.
Michael, how's the party different now from when your father was DNC chair in the 90s, the Democratic Party?
Well, I think both parties. The landscape has changed. In my father's time, and Lee Atwater's time, and Haley Barbour's time, and Chuck Manatt's time, the party leadership really could direct the agenda as well as the message. And today, it seems to be, folks seem to be their own practitioners or solo contractors. And they develop their own messaging.
Good?
Good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's good and bad. And I guess we'll have to see how if the time goes back, where it swings back to party leadership to make decisions and control the messaging, or will the people continue to make those decisions?
So two things happened. First thing is we brought C-SPAN into the House and the Senate, and these regular members became famous, and they got on TV. Cable news picked up. There was a lot of shows you could get on. And then then social media happened, where you could make news all day long or every week and not have any real seniority in Congress or the Senate. But specifically to the parties, that was the whole game, because that's where all the money was. And when they allowed for all this outside financing, with the Supreme Court agreeing with that, the outside money is more important than the direct money to either a campaign committee or the DNC or the RNC. So the money is on the outside, and the committees matter less.
And they're called independent expenditures. They're called IEs.
It feels a little bit to me like the old days of Reagan, with Nancy Reagan, when she said, just say no. And it seems members of Congress, they just say no to the other side. It's like, just say no. I mean, forget that we need to, we have to worry about TSA. Just say no. Or forget, on any of this stuff. It's just say no.
Well, the Democratic Party that your father was associated with elected Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, two men from the South. They got elected because they were not considered left-wingers. They governed from the center. And I will tell you this, I would take those Democrats any day of the week. They were liberal, but they knew they had to work with the Republican Party. And I think the problem in our country is that, and I blame Barack Obama for this mostly, the Democratic Party went left, and they went hard left, and everything became about race, and it made very difficult to have a real conversation in this country.
Of course, I don't agree with Matt's last.
You don't agree with the beginning
That's
part?
why I was that like
The beginning part, yes, we can separate
the beginning and the two are opposites, so you can't agree with both.
And I think, obviously, that the Obama administration would claim that they were more in the middle or center
On what
left,
issue?
On center left than being far left that Matt and some of his allies say they are.
He did deport a lot of people. That's
You know what I don't like? Is that both sides have to run to the far right or the far left, the base, and then all of a sudden they have to sort of inch back for the general election. So it doesn't seem like there's sort of there's some your commitment is sort of fluid.
I guess, but we're arguing over these really stupid basic things. Like, should the border be open or should you have legal-based immigration? Should boys be in girls' sports? This has gone insane. Like, the party of Bill Clinton and the party of Jimmy Carter said we're not going to be wacko crazy Ted Kennedy
All right,
party.
I would give Michael the last word to be wacko on you.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that to my good friend Matt. It's, you know what's interesting, Greta, when you talk about the parties back in the 80s and the 90s, which were different, the messaging was so solid. You knew exactly what Republicans were, you knew exactly what Democrats are, but now everyone claims to have these different flanks and different leaders, and it's a difficult job.
Michael Brown, Matt Schlapp, thank you both.
Good to be on with you again.
Yes,
New York
Matt.
City's mayor is set to open the city's first city-owned grocery store. Will open in 2029, 3 years from now. But at what cost? The New York Times is reporting that one store alone will cost $30 million to build. It is also expected to function without rent. La Marqueta is the place where Mayor Zoran Mamdani would like to have the city's first store. La Marqueta has been an informal place for street vendors to gather. Space is owned by the city. The hope behind those city-owned grocery stores are lower food costs. And yes, cheaper food means more customers. But grocery stores already have a slim profit margin from 1% to 3%. That according to the data from SageWorks. The small businesses in the neighborhoods like the bodegas, often found in New York, could be in for an awakening if they have to compete with taxpayer-subsidized stores. The city-owned grocery store model was launched in St. Louis, Missouri in 2018, but it failed due to empty shelves, rotten food, and theft. So the question for New Yorkers, will Mamdani be able to open all 5 of his envisioned city-owned grocery stores by the time his first term is up, which is December 31st, 2029? We'll have to see. Coming up, we have an update on the case of the missing American woman in the Bahamas. That when the record continues.
Americans have lost billions of dollars in their retirement accounts during the dot-com bubble of 2000.
And inflation is only getting worse.
Patriot Gold Group just introduced our America 250 Inflation Protection No Fee for Life IRA.
I'm sure glad Eileen and I rolled over our IRAs into gold in 2019.
On Wall Street, there's a saying, sell in May and go away.
My saying is, call the Patriot Gold Group today.
Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 1-800-778-4156.
Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer nationwide. The only firm nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the No Fee for Life IRA. Patriot Gold Group is patriots protecting patriots.
Call now, 1-800-778-4156.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dry premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
These days, supporting the right causes matters more than ever. That's why I chose Patriot Mobile. They're not just a great mobile service provider, they're all about giving back. Every bill helps support causes we believe in: family, faith, and freedom. You get great nationwide coverage on all 3 main networks. Even better, you're doing it with an American company that stands up for us. It's time to make the switch, y'all. Let's support a wireless company that's got our back. Go to patriotmobile.com and make the switch today.
Another lost summer scrolling and swiping? Turns out the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools can be installed in weeks. Our pools won't stain or crack and never require costly resurfacing. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. Visit LathamPool.com now. Latham is a proud sponsor of USA Artistic Swimming.
When we started Allegiance, we were shocked to learn how many American flags are actually made overseas.
If there's one thing that deserves to be made here in America, it should start with the American flag.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America, Buy Americans with American materials.
Join our pledge to make the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
A Florida teen has now been indicted as an adult for allegedly killing his stepsister. Yesterday, the 16-year-old, who has only been referred to as TH, was indicted by a federal grand jury. He was charged with first-degree murder and aggravated sexual abuse in the killing of his stepsister. According to the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida, on November 7, 2025, Anna Kempner was found dead on a Carnival cruise ship during a family vacation. From November 6 to the 7th, the ship was in international waters en route to Miami. During that time, TH allegedly sexually assaulted and killed Kempner. In a press release from the United States Attorney's Office, quote, TH was initially charged as a juvenile by information on February 2. The case remains sealed until U.S. District Court Judge Beth Bloom ordered it transferred for adult prosecution, end quote. If convicted, TH faces a maximum penalty of life in prison. Meanwhile, also yesterday, Bahamian authorities released Brian Hooker from custody. Brian Hooker is the husband of Lynette Hooker. She's the woman from Michigan who disappeared while the couple was traveling in a motorboat in the Bahamas. Brian Hooker has not been charged with any crimes. His release comes days after he was arrested for questioning in connection to his wife's disappearance. On the evening of April 4th, the couple were on their 8-foot-long motorboat heading towards their sailboat. The sailboat was anchored off the coast of Hopetown, Bahamas. While on the motorboat, and according to Brian, Lynette fell overboard, and also, according to her husband Brian, Lynette had the keys to the boat when she went into the water. Her husband Brian says she was carried away by strong rip currents. Brian claims without the keys, he had to paddle all the way back to shore in Hopetown. That's when he reported his wife missing. However, Lynette's daughter, who is also Brian's stepdaughter, Carly Aylesworth, does not buy Brian's story. Aylesworth said that it's unlikely that her mother would just fall from a boat. Brian denies a wrongdoing in connection to his wife's disappearance. After his release from Bahamian authorities, Brian spoke with CBS News.
Even while I have been detained by the Royal Bahamian Police Department, I was speaking with a volunteer the day that I was detained to go out on one of their boats. They were going to take off work and take me searching some more areas. I won't be able to stop looking.
You want to keep looking for Lynette?
I'm going to need somebody with more authority to tell me to stop.
It's been more than a week since Lynette's disappearance, and the investigation and the search for her is still ongoing. Coming up, someone was supposed to be at school, but he cut class and caused a ruckus downtown. Even police had to get involved. That video when the record continues.
Hey, I'm Carl Higbee from Newsmax. Look, I'm unapologetically pro-American, and honestly, this is the one place that lets me call it how it is. I'm not holding back. I'll give it to you straight every single night.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
Think you need a new roof? Think again. Most roofing companies only make money one way, by selling you a new roof. But what if your roof isn't worn out, just dried out? And with just a little love, you could put off an expensive roof replacement for up to 15 years, at a fraction of the cost of a new roof. Roofmax is a scientifically engineered restoration formula that brings your shingle life back to new. Scan the code and get a free spring roof tune-up with your Roofmax restoration.
Where's my mother gonna... Oh, no. Is this the episode with the breakup?
Reba, we can't agree on the house.
Y'all need Realtor.com. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you could find the one today. This could be it. Better put a key ring on it. Realtor.com.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
I've been using Experian Boost to help raise my credit scores, but Experian Boost is even better, because now my monthly insurance payments could help boost my scores too. It does it instantly and it's free. So get it through the Experian app.
Nobody knows Corvettes like McMulkin Chevrolet, the world's largest Corvette dealer for 5 consecutive years. Set apart by its name alone, Corvette delivers a legacy of American craftsmanship, and a vehicle that sets the bar for performance cars deserves a buying experience that meets it. With hundreds of Corvettes in stock and ready for immediate delivery nationwide, it's no wonder Corvette enthusiasts from across the USA keep coming back to McMulkin Chevrolet.
Why go on Roe? Because 1 in 4 guys.
1 in 4 guys.
1 in 4 guys experience ED. On Roe, ED feels like no big deal. Connect with a provider to find treatment that could be right for you. 100% online.
Roe designed or curated treatments to make ED feel less stressful. There are options to fit every need, like fast-acting dissolvables or daily gummies. If 1 in 4 guys deal with ED,
then 1 in 4 guys should go on Roe.
Guys, connect with a provider at roe.co to see if you qualify.
Police in Ohio went on a wild chase to find a fugitive who cut class. Who was it? This wallaby named Kipper. Where does he live? He lives on a nearby farm. His owner is the chair of the veterinary technology at Sinclair Community College. She brought Kipper to school for career day. She said the wallaby visits the school often, but this time Kipper decided he wanted to play hooky. When she arrived at the school and opened the car door, Kipper broke out of his carrier and took off hopping. He left campus and went into downtown Dayton. After an hour, police found Kipper and safely brought him home. Kipper's owner estimates that in that 1 hour Kipper was gone, he traveled 5 miles. Wallabies can run up to 30 miles an hour. Thanks for watching. Ed Henry and the Big Take is next. Stay with Newsmax.